Hello friends. The presence of opposite color bishops in an endgame gives us a lot of drawing opportunities, especially if we are defending. If we are even 2 pawns down, the presence of opposite color bishops on the board saves us from defeat. But in the middle game, the presence of opposite color bishops magnifies the attacking opportunities, and it can prove to be a lethal weapon, an extremely lethal weapon in the hands of attacker. This is exactly what happened in the game between Grandmaster Alexis Sarana and Grandmaster Sanal Wahab, where Grandmaster Sarana used the power of opposite color bishops to win a very topsy-turvy attacking game and checkmate the opponent's king. Let's check out this instructive game by Grandmaster Alexis Sarana and learn something from it. So let's get started. The game opened with the move d4, d5, knight f3, knight f6, c4, c6, the Slav defense, knight c3, e6 and e3. So we enter the semi-Slav variation. Black plays knight bd7, queen c2, bishop d6 and bishop to d3. A very standard line against in the semi-Slav defense. I used to play this line quite a lot when there were tournaments going on actively. So after bishop d3, d into c4, bishop into c4, short castles, short castles. So this is a very standard position of the bishop d3, the queen c2 bishop d3 variation of the semi-Slav defense. Here black's main move is to play b5, attack the bishop and then fianchet to the bishop to b7 and slowly prepare for the break with c5. But the move played by Grandmaster Sanal Wahab was a bit rare. He played the move queen e7. Now after playing queen e7, black's main idea is to break with the move e5, which is not the most accurate way to break in the center. As I said earlier, c5 is something that black should aim for, and that is how black most of the time in most of the game plays in this position. But here Sanal placed his queen to e7 with the idea to break with e5 at some point or the other. White played a3. The point behind a3 is that whenever black plays the move b5, he would like to drop his bishop back to a2 and the bishop can further come to b1, creating pressure along the b1 h7 diagonal. Also after a3 and black plays b5, black doesn't get the opportunity to advance the pawn further to b4 since the a3 pawn is covering the b4 square now. So after a3, black played the move a6. The point behind it, a6 is pretty similar, covering the b5 square, so that when he plays c5, there is not going to be any knight b5 tricks harassing the bishop on d6. White drops his bishop back to a2, which is a kind of a prophylactic move. At some point this bishop is going to get hit on the c4 square either by b5 or the knight comes to b6. So it's useful for white to drop the bishop back to a2 beforehand. Black goes for the move c5. So finally he goes for the c5 break, but he has wasted one move with queen e7 and as we will see later on in the game, this one move costed black a lot of problems. White got the initiative and black was just one move away from equalizing. So anyways, black goes for the move c5. He has to take some break in the center. If he stays passive, white will take over and gain a lot of initiative. So after c5, white takes on c5, bishop into c5, and white goes for the active move e4. With e4, white is clearly intending to advance it further with e5, gain space in the center, and on the king side, kick the knight from f6 and then later on plan for the move bishop g5, which attacks the queen on e7. Black plays bishop d6, clearly preventing the idea of e5, and white develops his bishop actively with bishop g5, and with bishop g5, white has all his minor pieces developed and well placed. His rooks are connected as well, and he is now going to bring his rooks in the game, while black is way behind in development, at least two moves, because the bishop on c8 will require at least two moves to develop. For example, b5 and bishop b7, and two moves with the black pieces is a huge deal. Black plays knight e5, offering the exchange of knights on f3 and also gaining control on the very important e5 square. Black has to make sure that white doesn't get to advance the pawn to e5 and create a lot of attacking chances. White exchanges knights and goes for the move f4. So white's whole aim is to play e5 at some point and gain space on the king side. It is clear that white's main strategy should be to try and create some attacking chances against the black king. f4, black plays queen c5 check. He has to do something in order to at least ruin white's pawn structure on the queen side. If he simply retreats somewhere or gives a check, it doesn't really make any difference, doesn't really improve his position even a bit, because after king h1 there is no stopping to the move e5, and after e5 the attack on the king side will play itself. So black decides to at least give a check and take on c3. In that way he manages to ruin white's queen side pawn structure, so he has something to play for in case white starts attacking on the king side. B into c3 and black plays b5, preparing to fianchet to his bishop along the long diagonal, which is a good plan. At the same time, by playing b5, he fixes the pawn on c3, which is isolated and backward now, and he will soon try to attack the pawn on c3. But as I said, he is 2 moves behind, so he will still need 2 moves to create something in this position. After b5, white plays e5. He continues with his plan, advances on the king side and kicks the knight from f6. Knight comes to d5, bishop into d5. Before the knight creates any more troubles, already black is threatening to take the pawn on c3. Knight is coming to e3. So white decides to eliminate the knight quickly with bishop into d5. E into d5 is not an option for for black, because after f5 these 2 pawns are going to crush black on the king side. So queen into d5 makes sense. White brings his rook in the game with tempo. Queen c4 and rook f3. Now the rooks swing over to the king side. Especially this rook is going to be really troublesome for black, because it will induce a lot of weaknesses on black's king side. Black plays queen a4, offering the exchange of queens, and white plays queen b1, a very good move. Of course, it's evident that white should not exchange queens, but it was also a question for white whether to play queen c1 or queen d2, where exactly to put the queen. But queen b1 is a very good move. First of all, the queen is safe from any more attacks by the black queen. Apart from that, by placing the queen on this diagonal, white can induce weaknesses on black's king side by playing rook h3, attacking the pawn on h7. Also, by placing the queen on b1, white doesn't allow moves like queen e4 and allow the black queen to the defense on the king side. Black plays bishop b7, attacking the rook on f3, and white plays rook d4. After bishop b7, black was not only threatening to win the rook on f3, but was also intending to include his bishop via e4 into the defense, and white takes care of it, plays rook d4, breaks the communication between the rook and between the queen and the e4 square. Queen into a3, black grabs the pawn, and white plays rook h3. White is of course not worried about a pawn on the queen side, because it will take ages for black to start pushing his a pawn. In the meantime, white is completely focused on attacking. He's threatening checkmate in 1. Black plays h6, a very logical move, the only defense, and white places his bishop on the very, very strong f6 square. Now this bishop many times is far greater in value in this sort of positions if you compare it to any other material of black's army. Now this bishop is threatening mates on g7. Many times there are mates on the h8 square. We can easily imagine if the queen reaches on the h6 square, there is very little black can do about the mating threats on the king side. Black decides to play rook fc8. The main idea is not to attack the c3 pawn, but to allow the black queen the f8 square so that it can help him in the defense. White plays queen e1, a very strong move once again, intending to transfer the queen to h4. Apart from that, rook h7 is a very strong threat now, because after king h7, queen h4 followed by queen h8, there's going to be a mate on the h file. Black prevents it by pushing his pawn to h5, and here white had a very nice winning opportunity that would have won the game for him by force. Rook h5 seems like a very logical move, but rook h5 doesn't work immediately, because after g into h5, queen g3 check, king f8, queen g7 check, king e8. Surprisingly, there is no mate with queen g8, because the black queen comes in between, and after queen f8 it is black who wins the game. So rook h5, even though it looks very attractive, is not the winning move, and of course Alexis Sarana must have calculated this variation. But the correct move for white is to play f5, and that is what Alexei played in the game. And we will soon see, after f5 white opens up a lot of lines against the black's king and a lot of opportunities that gives him winning chances. If white would have played the move rook d7 straight away, attacking the bishop and placing his rook on the 7th rank, black had a very nice defensive move, the only move that saves the game for him, and that is bishop to e4. A nice move exploiting the fact that white can't take the bishop for the moment because there's mate on the back rank, and the bishop comes into defense, and there's simply nothing white can do about it from this moment, because after rook h5, gh5, queen g3, the bishop comes in between and defends everything on the king's side. So after h5, in this position, instead of playing rook d7 or rook h5, white first plays f5, weakening black's king side further. Black takes the pawn with his e pawn. That's the only way to maintain the king side together for the moment. And here white plays e6, which looks very logical. You know, we break with f5 and then we break with e6, trying to open up the black king. But here white had a much stronger move that would have won the game on the spot, and that is again not rook h5 because of the same reason that we saw in the previous variation. After gh5, queen g3, king f8, queen g3, king e8, queen g8, the black queen comes in between and black saves the day. But instead of playing rook h5, after ef5, the correct move is to play rook d7, attacking the bishop, and after bishop c6 to play rook h5. Now there's a huge difference, because first of all we are threatening a mate in one move, so black has to take on h5, and after queen g3, king f8, queen g7, king e8 and queen f7, there's a checkmate because of the rook on d7, because of the powerful rook on the 7th rank. So it was important for white to first play rook d7, put the rook on the 7th rank, and then grab the h5 pawn, and that would have led to a checkmate. At the same time, because we have played f5, there is no option for black to put his bishop in between on the g6 square to take his bishop on the king side. So f5 followed by rook d7 was winning, but in the game Alexei played the move e6. Let's see how the game continued. From here on, both players made mistakes. I assume they were under time pressure, and yeah, it was a topsy-turvy game from this point onwards, but still it was pretty entertaining. After e6, black played queen a2, a very good move, including the queen in the defense along the g8, a2 diagonal. White plays rook g3. Now white focuses on the new target, that is the g6 pawn. Black plays rook e8, and white plays c4, breaking the connection between the queen and the e6 pawn. After c4, here black had the option of taking the pawn on e6 with rook e6, but it leads to a quick checkmate after rook g6 check, king f8, queen b4 check, and after king e8, rook g8 check. There is no way for the black king to move, and it's a checkmate. So the logical move rook e6 doesn't work. That's the reason why after c4, black played the move bishop e4, breaking the connection of the queen to the e6 pawn. White played ef7 check, even though the correct move for white was to play rook into e4, f into e4 and queen e4, when the threat of rook g6 is lethal and it simply wins for white on the spot. A very important point to note here is that there is no queen a1 and queen b1 checks because of the queen and the bishop covering both the squares, and white simply wins with a very powerful move, rook g6 on the next move. But anyways, Alexei played the move ef7 check, and after king f7, rook d7 check, the correct move for black was to take on f6, because this rook sacrifice with rook g6 doesn't work. King g6, queen g3, king f6, queen g7, king e6, all only moves. And after queen f7, king e5, queen g7, it's very important for black not to go to f4, because queen g3 leads to a checkmate. So if black stays within the range with king e6, there's nothing better for white rather than going for the perpetual with queen f7 and queen g7. Anyways, after rook d7, black made a mistake by playing king e6, not grabbing the bishop on f6 when he had the opportunity. White plays rook d2, attacking the queen, saving the rook with a tempo. queen into c4, and here white played queen a1, a very strong move once again. The queen is aiming to land on e5, and after queen e5, king f7, rook d7 check, they are going to be mating threats against the black king. Black played queen b4. A simple move for black would have been to play the prophylactic king f7, not allowing queen e5 with a check, not allowing the white queen to enter the scene with a check. So it's important to play king f7 in this position, but Alexei played the move queen b4, after which bishop c3 was the correct move for white, because it also allows him to take the pawn on g6 with a check. Even though bishop c3 allows the exchanges of queens with queen b1, it doesn't really matter so much, because after takes king f7 and rook d6, both the rooks and the bishop make a very good team, a very good attacking team, and black's king is in danger despite the queens are off the board at the moment. White is just winning in this position. So bishop c3 was a winning move, but it's very tough to allow the exchange of queens. Alexei played the move rook d1, covering the b1 square and preventing queen b1 check. Black plays king f7, but after rook d7 check, king e6, rook d1, there is nothing better for both players than to agree for a draw. But here Grandmaster Sanal Wahab was a bit ambitious. He played the move f4, but after f4 it was just over for black because of the strong move rook into g6, bishop into g6, and queen e5 check, king f7, rook d7 check, king f8, bishop g7 check, all forced moves. There is no way for black's king to hide, and after king g8, queen d5 check, king h7. There are again numerous ways for white to checkmate the black king, but the simple move bishop f8 does the job, and that is exactly what Alexei Sarana played in the game. The idea is to grab the queen and at the same time cover the e1 square so that there is no rook e1 with a checkmate. And once white wins the black queen, the game is essentially over, as white is material up and has an ongoing attack against the black king. So this was a very beautiful attacking game by Grandmaster Alexei Sarana, who used the power of opposite color bishops in the middle game to its fullest extent. See you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching the video till the end. Bye bye.